Tonight, we're hearing from that Vancouver man who says he had to fight to protect his family when a now former DoorDash driver brought a gun to his home to confront him, he says, all over a tip.
You know, sometimes there are headlines that are just too good not to cover on this channel, and this particular story of an angry DoorDash driver attacking a customer for not giving him a cash tip in addition to the tip that they already submitted through the app with a firearm is one of those stories that just gets better as you go through it, despite the fact that the crime is horrific. The guy should be in jail. It's absolutely serious, but it's just that the details related to this case get hilarious as we get into it. So that's why we're going to talk about it today. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
Sounds like a pretty wild encounter.
Definitely a wild encounter, David. Part of the struggle was actually caught on camera, as you can see here, right outside of the front door. The homeowner tells me it really caught him by surprise how a situation like this over a tip could escalate.
So look, I just want to say for everybody out there in the audience that if you are using DoorDash or Uber Eats, stop it. Cut it out. Go drive to McDonald's yourself and get your burger and fries from them. I don't understand why you would overpay the additional upcharges in order to use these services just to get a cold version of your burger and fries when everybody knows that McDonald's fries in the microwave are absolutely horrible. They're putrid. They're disgusting. You guys need to stop doing that. But setting that aside, understanding that we're already in this situation, it's already raining and we're already wet, we got to get into the facts of this particular case because this entitled DoorDash driver who demanded an additional tip decided to escalate it to the next level by bringing a firearm in this situation, and a dad, an American hero of a dad, ended up fighting him off and disarming him, and I loved every aspect of it after the crime started. Obviously, I didn't like the crime part of it, but yeah, let's get into this segment.
A quiet morning in Vancouver interrupted.
This loud bang on the door, real loud, startled my daughter, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, who the heck's pounding on the door?"
Anthony Valino explains it was the DoorDash delivery driver.
So look, the local news actually has some surveillance footage from like one of those Ring video doorbell systems. I don't know if the shoving is going to cross the threshold of YouTube's terms of service in terms of violence. However, I do recommend that you watch it in its full context in the link in the description so you can see this clip. But for those of you who are watching it only on my video, I will point out that the footage shows that this dad ends up managing to disarm him with one hand while shoving him to the ground with the other hand, which just goes to show you that having a gun does not make you a superhero. And in fact, when you're completely ineffective with your weapon, when your intimidation tactics don't work, a man in the right can put you down where you need to be thrown down, which is at the foot of his car. So credit where credit is due to this man. Again, he is the hero of this story, but let's get into how this situation broke down. And again, additional details about this DoorDash driver, or Dasher as the company calls him.
Who'd come by the house the night before when his daughter ordered groceries.
It was a considerable amount. It was about $100 worth of food. The food was delivered to her. Apparently, she had to give a tip through the online system, which was deducted.
So already, and I do in fact mean all and then ready, I am completely against this DoorDash driver who apparently ended up making his delivery. He received the tip through the app, like I explained to you earlier on, but then decided the next day to come pounding on these people's doors, demanding a cash tip because he thinks he was entitled to more. Now, of course, you should tip your drivers, you should tip your waitresses and whatnot. I am not somebody who's against tipping, who says that you should not do or anything of the sort, but the fact is a tip is a courtesy for service, and if you've already received a tip through the digital system via DoorDash, then you just need to accept that that's what you're gonna get, whether you're happy with it or not. On top of that, I will also point out that DoorDash could pay you more in order to do these services. They could charge more in the service fee, and if DoorDash is taking a percentage of your tips, that is in fact illegal for them to do. And again, that is something that you take up with the app that you are working for, because they're the ones with the policies that set you up in this particular scenario, not the customer, who again, according to the father, who I'm inclined to believe, was actually provided a tip.
But the driver had apparently wanted a cash tip. And for a second, Volino thought about giving him one.
When he again said, I want my tip, that's when I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. He leaned in like I didn't hear him. And that's when I put my hand up like a stop sign and I said, hey, hey, hey. And I said, you need to leave now.
So this dad might be the greatest hero in the history of the United States of America. He might be Captain America just with a shaved head, because you have a man come to his door, bang on the door, demand a tip a day after he already received a tip, and he was actually considering giving it to him. Now, this story takes place in Vancouver, not Vancouver, Canada, but Vancouver, Washington. But it seems like that Canadian politeness and, pushoverness had to have affected him in some way, because at the moment you're banging on my door the next day demanding money from me, you and I are going to have a problem, and I'm not considering giving you some additional cash. But this guy was willing to, until the guy showed himself to be completely rude, and then he was like, all right, enough is enough, you need to get off my property. So again, polite, kind, courteous, but also with the backbone, which again makes this man Captain America.
A scuffle ensued, and that's when Volino realized the man at their door had a gun in his waistband.
When I felt the steel, my heart just sank. My heart just sank. I was like, oh God, help me now. He tripped right here and he tripped up against my wife's car. And as he was on the ground, I came about right here and I leaned over and I cleared the handgun.
Vancouver police arrived soon after, identifying the suspect as Robert Delahant and arresting him.
So they end up getting into this shoving match. He realizes that this man has a firearm on him, and that's when he activated. That's when he ends up shoving him over. Now, he describes this as a trip, but let us be clear. Captain Steve Rogers right here shoved the man. That's when he hit the car. And then you see the absolute badass that he is disarming the gun as the man is on the floor, now asking for his firearm back, realizing that he completely messed up. Again, you show up with a firearm to assault somebody on their own property for a tip that is in addition to the one that you already received, and you immediately lose the battle. You're immediately disarmed, humiliated, humbled, and guess what? This guy, so merciful. This guy, so generous. He didn't say, you know what? I got the firearm. You've attacked me in my home. Castle doctrine. I'm going to blow you away. Boom. No, none of that nonsense. I know that was a shotgun noise. You gun dorks out there. Relax. He decided that he was going to clear the gun, take the bullets, and then send this man on his way. After, of course, he ended up calling the police.
A spokesperson for DoorDash told KGW that the company has a zero-tolerance policy for harassment of any kind. What happened was unacceptable, and the Dasher involved was immediately deactivated.
So look, DoorDash ends up releasing a statement saying that they got rid of this guy's account. My favorite part about their statement is that they said he was immediately deactivated, which, by the way, was actually a possible scenario when he showed up with the firearm in order to demand money from the people inside this home. Captain Rogers could have easily deactivated him, if you understand what I mean. I'm talking about killing, by the way. I'm not doing that TikTok thing where I don't say words. I'm just playing on the fact that DoorDash made their statement so dramatic at the end of it. But instead, Captain Rogers decided to turn him over to local law enforcement, and wouldn't you know it, a whole host of additional problems ended up attaching to our criminal in this particular case that I think are quite notable.
And my kids were in there. They were at the my grandkids were at the door. My daughter's outside screaming. If he would have drew that gun and missed me and shot one of my kids, it would have been devastating.
Now again, this is just your regular ordinary man, your regular ordinary father defending his family, doing so with appropriate force, being in control of the situation. And I have a lot of love and respect for the guy, because in a situation where somebody was acting erratic, acting crazy, presenting a serious threat, he calmly took control of it, disarmed him, cleared the gun, called the police, and dealt with it. This was not a situation where he used a disproportionate disproportionate amount of force. He in fact used the minimum amount of force required in order to make sure that this situation ended up being resolved in the least violent way possible. And you gotta love that about him. And again, I'm fully in support of him. I think that his daughter should still go to the grocery store herself and not overpay for groceries, but that is neither here nor there at this point, because this guy is a criminal. He is a danger. Who knows what he was going to do later on based on the fact that he felt entitled to additional money, additional tips.
The suspect faces felony harassment, DUI, and assault charges. Neither he nor Valina was injured in this incident.
Yeah, did you guys catch that at the end? He ended up being charged with a DUI, driving under the influence, sometimes DWI, depending on your state, but in this state, DUI. This guy was drunk. He drunk drove to this man's house with a firearm in order to demand money, additional money, for a tip, and he ended up getting his butt handed to him. He ended up getting taken down real quick. Obviously, this guy, completely out of line, completely out of balance. The felony charges definitely applied. Now, unfortunately, it's Washington State, so I'm sure he'll get a slap on the wrist, somehow maintain his license. But yeah, this man, the myth, the legend himself, he definitely held it down in this particular scenario because this guy was not in the right state of mind to be carrying a firearm. Obviously, he was acting erratically, and he protected his family. And his perspective on the whole situation isn't, what if I would have got shot? It's like, what if the bullet would have missed me and hit one of my family members? That would have been devastating. This is what a man is, by the way. This is the defender. This is the protector. This is, by the way, what the internet might not call an alpha based on whatever arbitrary factors they want to attribute to him, but in reality is the alpha in this particular situation. He made this chimp do the thing where he's on the ground, asking for, basically praise or whatever, or to be let up by the master chimp right here. And I think he deserves credit for how he presented himself in this situation. And if anybody has a GoFundMe link, a Give Send Go, I will promote the hell out of it, because Captain America, bald Steve Rogers right here, just held it down, and he's deserving of our respect. West Coast Avengers, maybe that's a thing now. I don't know what you guys think, but this is my opinion. It's my channel, so I'm right and you're wrong if you disagree with me. Now, as per usual, if you guys like this video, you can show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Steve Rogers, Captain America. I don't know why I yelled right there. Taking down a crook, a DoorDasher. Till next time.